Saudi Arabia is an immensely conservative country. Why? Because its people are very conservative. And the people would often imagine, I think, that the rulers are holding it back in terms of reforms. Actually, it's quite the opposite. King Abdullah, despite his advanced years, was a reformer, and he pushed quite hard for the role of women. The push back against that was the religious conservatives who don't want to see them driving, who don't want to see them have any kind of public or political role. Now, the focus will be on King Salman bin Abdulaziz, his brother or half-brother, and whether he will continue those reforms, I personally think is unlikely. He's fairly conservative himself. He was governor of Riyadh, a very important post, for quite some time. He's been crown prince and defense minister, very important roles. So the priority for Saudis now is going to be stability, continuing the way for as far as the Al Saud, the ruling family, and the religious conservatives are concerned. They will want to resist any kind of violent change that they've seen in the so-called Arab Spring. Saudi Arabia is one of those countries that managed to resist the Arab Spring, which is, it surprised a lot of people because it's probably the least democratic country in the entire Middle East. And yet, with the combination of billions of dollars of tight security, of allegiance to the ruling family, and particularly to King Abdullah, Saudi Arabia was able to, and also a number of arrests, they were able to resist the Arab Spring. They don't like it. They issued a fatwa, or they got the religious ulama, the religious clerics, to issue a fatwa against any demonstrations, public, in favor of the Arab Spring, clamping down on any protests. And I think that Saudi Arabia will probably continue in this vein. They fear dramatic change. They don't like dramatic change. King Salman, as he now is obviously was expecting to take on this role. He was somebody who was very closely involved in Saudi Arabia's role against the Syrian regime. The Saudis were appalled that America didn't carry out airstrikes against Bashar al-Assad's regime following the gas attacks in the autumn of 2013. He flew back from his holiday in Morocco, ready to take control of Saudi Arabia's defenses, expecting to play a military role in any kind of U.S. offensive against the Syrian regime, instead of which, of course, as we know, there was a deal to eliminate Syria's chemical weapons, and there were no airstrikes against Syria's regime, instead of which they now find themselves in the extraordinary position of being a part of the coalition, the US-led coalition against Islamic State. This is a very difficult time for Saudis because many Saudis do not understand why their country is supporting infidel America, as some would call it, against their fellow brethren in Syria and Iraq, and they oppose those airstrikes. So Saudi Arabia is going to have, I think, an increasing internal security problem.